It was just another cold evening at the small cafe where Ethan worked double shifts to keep food on the table for his 8-year-old daughter, Lily. Snowflakes clung to his coat each time he stepped outside to bring in deliveries, and his hands were red from the cold. The cafe was warm and cozy inside, filled with the smell of fresh coffee and the soft hum of chatter. Ethan glanced at Lily, who sat quietly in the corner with her coloring book, bundled in a puffy pink jacket. She always waited for him to finish work because he couldn't afford a babysitter. She didn't complain. She knew every extra dollar meant keeping the heat on at home. That night, a man walked in wearing a designer coat and polished shoes, his watch gleaming under the soft lights. He ordered the most expensive coffee on the menu, his tone dripping with arrogance. From the moment he noticed Lily, his eyes lingered too long. Ethan's stomach tightened. The man eventually walked over to Lily, crouching down with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "You're a pretty little thing," he said, glancing at Ethan like it was some sort of compliment. Ethan walked over immediately, his voice steady. "Is there something you need, sir?" The man smirked and, in a tone that made Ethan's skin crawl, said, "Why don't you let her sit on my lap? I'll make it worth your while." The air in the cafe froze. Ethan felt a rush of anger and disgust surge through him. His heart pounded in his chest, but he kept his voice low so Lily wouldn't feel the tension. "She's not for sale," he said firmly, standing between the man and his daughter. The man laughed, like it was a joke, but Ethan's eyes told him it wasn't. "I think you should leave," Ethan said, his voice like steel. The man scoffed, muttered something under his breath, and walked out into the snowy night. Ethan knelt down beside Lily, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "You're safe, sweetheart," he whispered. She didn't fully understand what had happened, but she could feel her dad's protective presence like a shield. A regular customer, who had overheard the entire exchange, walked up and quietly handed Ethan a small envelope. "For you and Lily," she said gently. "I know it's not much, but you're a good father." Inside was enough money to cover a week's groceries. Ethan's throat tightened, not from the money itself, but from the reminder that kindness still existed. When they walked home later, Lily held his hand tightly, her small boots crunching in the snow. Ethan looked down at her and realized that no matter how hard life got, no amount of money could ever compare to her safety, her smile, and the trust in her eyes. That night, as they shared a simple dinner in their tiny apartment, Ethan felt something stronger than exhaustion. He felt pride. In a world that sometimes seemed ready to buy and sell everything, he knew there were still things you couldn't put a price on. And Lily, his little girl, was one of them. If you want, I can also make you 5 powerful image prompts for this story, so they fit perfectly for a Canadian YouTube audience.